Welcome to the Akron Symphony's 2016-17 season, and an especially warm welcome to new board members who may be with us for the first time. Opening night is always an exceptionally exciting time because we get our full 82-member roster back and get to hear the full orchestra in all of its glory in E.J. Thomas Hall once again. On opening night, I like to really feature the orchestra and make sure that all of our members are involved. So typically these are big programs with a lot of sound and a lot of color. The three works on the opening night program were all written within about a decade of each other at the very beginning of the 20th century. It was a time when composers were pushing the forms of music and the orchestrational limits of very large orchestras, but at the same time reflecting and drawing on the traditions of the 19th century. And that's true of all three of these pieces. They are big and romantic in their sound, but quite progressive in the way that they treat the orchestra. Elgar's Pomp and Circumstance March, very well known from high school graduations and so forth, is, I think, in some ways the quintessential ceremonial music, a perfect way to begin the season, and makes a splendid sonority. Then we have the first of Sibelius's final great three symphonies, his Symphony No. 5, which was in many ways inspired by nature, but by what he heard in his home outside of Helsinki. And the piece is neo-romantic. It draws on many of the gestures and sounds of the great romantic tradition, but in a very progressive way. One of the most striking examples of the piece is the way that it seems to be assembled backwards from the usual way of creating a symphonic work. For Beethoven, for example, the themes would be present at the outset, and then he would vary them, mix them up, shorten them, extend them, combine them in developing his ideas. Sibelius once said that he felt that God had thrown down a mosaic to him in all of its tiny little pieces, and that his job was to reassemble them into their magnificent whole. And this is how the Fifth Symphony works. It begins with little fragments, almost like nature calls, sounds of birds or rushing water. And little by little, these fragments get pulled together until at the end he's created a great hymn, what he called the Swan Hymn, because it reminded him of the majesty of swans swooping in to the lake outside his home, Ainola. And finally, to conclude our program, is the Rachmaninoff Third Piano Concerto, famously difficult, celebrated in the 1996 film Shine, and also romantic in its lyricism and quite progressive, even modern, in the brilliance of its color and of its invention. Our pianist is a great one, Antonio Pompabaldi, with whom I first worked in New Zealand in another work of Rachmaninoff some years ago. I've always wanted to work with Antonio again, and here is a splendid vehicle for his gifts. He's on the faculty at the Cleveland Institute of Music, as is Haesun Pek, our other piano soloist, who will appear later in the season with Benjamin Zander. Antonio will bring all that fire and virtuosic power to the work, but his Italian nature will come out also in delivering those sweeping, soaring melodies with great sentiment and beautiful affect. Let me just say a word about the Akron Symphony's mission and how the season reflects it. I've sometimes spoken about three aspects to our mission that our programming fulfills, and I'll provide you with three words right now that all begin with A as a way to remember them: art, access, and alliances, meaning alliances in the community. Art, making great art is what we're all about. We have a great orchestra to do it. Our season includes many different art forms, narrative art, visual art, dance, and so forth. It also includes several commissions, so new works that we create in order to fulfill our mission. Access is about including the whole community, and you'll see program after program, different groups, organizations, schools, community and cultural organizations that are collaborating with us. So access in that sense, but also accessibility in the way that we present music. We want it to be approachable, and every program finds different ways of accomplishing that. And finally, alliances. These are the partnerships that really drive the participation of the community. Conservatories, schools of music, and universities, also high schools, Akron Public Schools, Akron School for the Arts, the training programs like YPAW, Youth Excellence Performance Arts Workshop, which is featured in our third program, cultural organizations like Cuyahoga Valley National Park, which is featured on our opening Pops concerts, all the different groups that appear on our holiday program, certainly, and all the churches involved with Gospel Meets Symphony. These are the alliances, the partnerships that we create to bring community together to celebrate this great music in ways that are meaningful and joyful. I hope you will participate with us and bring neighbors, friends, family to come and help us celebrate a great institution and the return of great music to E.J. Thomas Hall this Saturday at 8 o'clock. The lecture begins at 7. See you there.